And alive.
Welcome, Summa Scholars. Today is Friday, March 7th, the Feast of Perpetua and Felicity. This is the Daily Summa, by the way. So we're on this beaver galleon sailing through this ocean of time, space-time. And I don't know why I have the guitar, man. I just found out that guitar was in this house, by the way. Like, I didn't pay attention. I try to stay away from guitars. They're dangerous for me.
Is it just like a time-sucking thing?
It's a complete time suck. Not because I sit around and jam.
Right.
It's because if I pick up a guitar or a song comes in my head and my brain knows the guitar's in the room, like it could turn into a 3 or 4 day songwriting thing out of nowhere. And I just want, if the song's good, I'm like, okay, this is what I have to be doing right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the guitar was there and I picked it up for some purpose. And anyway, now I know it's here. So it's in this room, segregated at least off into this room. I generally don't think about it because I'm busy doing other things here.
Yeah.
But, so it's kind of worked out okay. Today's the Feast of Perpetua and Felicity, Joe.
Yeah, dude.
It's a big one for me. Guys, if we had enough beavers on this galleon so that we could make a living, parnassa, with this stream, then Joe and I would be starting today at 9 a.m. Isn't that true, Joe?
Probably, yeah. We've gone back and forth on that, but
well, I think it's a good idea. Feast
like
days,
many things having to do with the time we start, we have never quite agreed on any of it.
I'm leaning towards starting it earlier. I'm seeing the wisdom of it because here's the thing.
I knew you would. I just need you.
Why do you always have to do that? You always do that. You're like, oh, I knew I'd get you.
That's not what I was saying. That's not what I was saying. You didn't let me finish my thought. It was gonna be complimentary, and you didn't even let it happen.
Boo-hoo. Go ahead.
You twist things, man.
Go ahead, my man, Joe.
All right. Well, what I was gonna say was I figured that you would get there eventually, but it was we were switching up the idea so heavily that I knew you needed time to digest anything new and radically different from what we were gonna do in the original idea, which was to change the time all throughout the year. And now we're in moving into keeping the time the same, and so that's a bigger decision. So you should take time to think about it. I was gonna say it was wise.
How wise I am.
Yeah.
But I see the sense of starting earlier because of mass.
Right. Exactly.
Not just
that's the main thing.
I mean, yeah, because if we could wake up in the morning, do lauds, morning prayer, beaver galleon, daily summa, and then go to mass, what a bang up start for a day.
Yeah, for me, it's like 90% selfish. I'll just, anybody who's listening, I'll just throw it out there. A secret private conversation we had, but we were talking about it, and I said, I went through all the reasons for everyone else, and one of them was mass, and he was like, that's true. And I could tell I hadn't quite cracked the egg yet, on the idea for you. And I was like, all right, dude, I'm just gonna lay it out. I want to go to daily mass.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do it, man. Let's get this done.
Yeah, it would be beautiful, especially if a whole crew, like if a whole men's group left the study house, the house of study,
right,
and then walked over or whatever, made it over to mass together. That'd be cool, man. A crew. So yeah, I'm agreeing with it. But feast days, 9 a.m. I'm liking the feast day 9 a.m. hang. Or it might have to go 9:15 if we do mass, because then we could go mass. And then I don't know why we're having a business meeting right here on the live. I forget that we're live. Is there anybody watching this right now at this moment?
No, not right now. So we could say whatever we wanted, really.
Yeah, because, forget these Johnny-come-latelys who can't wake up early on the Feast of Perpetua and Felicity, who suffered so greatly in the arena. Do you know where they suffered? Joe. Do you know much of the story of Felicity and Perpetua?
I actually don't know where.
Okay, well, I will tell you where. It was
Dude.
in Carthage. It was blah blah blah. Okay, what?
No, I
It
said
was
do
in
so, you know?
it was in Carthage.
Carthage.
Now, do you know where Carthage
Yeah, I
was?
was just thinking, like, where the heck even is Carthage?
Carthage. Don't look it up. Carthage is North
Yeah, it
Africa.
stopped.
Carthage is North Africa, and it's in this place called Tunisia, otherwise known as Tunis.
Oh, interesting.
It's a place where I know you have your eyes set on. Well, do you? I think you do, Joe. Joe wants to sail on over to Tunis. Don't even act like you don't.
Are you diplomacy meeting me right now?
Don't even act like you don't. I'm gonna go over to Tunis.
You know what? You might be right. You might not be right. Actually, I sent you a possible deal in which we split up.
Email?
No, I sent it to you in text. I said, "Hey, we should split up like this. I don't care what you and Austria do about Rome."
Yeah.
And
we'll get back to that.
Basically ignored that.
No. As you like to point out, I take time for wisdom.
Yeah.
So do the people of France.
Well, today's the day, baby. Today's the day. You got to figure it out.
Oh, it is Friday, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This is fall?
Yeah.
It's fall of what year in diplomacy?
1904. Just so everyone knows, this game Diplomacy is a game that we play. You play like a turn a week. Maybe I'll pull up a little image of it.
Yeah, pull up a little. By the way, do you have the image of our journey through the desert that I sent to you?
Oh, I didn't realize you wanted. I thought you were just sending me it. I didn't know you wanted me to have it ready to go.
We talked about it yesterday, Joseph. We talked about having the map come up and then having a little skull or some kind of little pin that follows the journey.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole. Yeah, that's not right. Yeah, I didn't.
You said okay, yeah, we could do that.
You said, I think I said, yeah, that's a cool idea, and that'd be awesome. But I don't think I said I could do it. I don't know if I can, but I'll figure.
All you'd have to move is a little dot around on the screen.
I'll try and figure it out.
And then I sent you an image of Perpetua and Felicity also this morning. I know that's late notice, and we had agreed to do it earlier. But I sent you a picture because I just saw it. It just came up on the thing. It's a picture of Perpetua and Felicity and all the martyrs that died with them being killed. And it's so gross. It's so it was shocking this morning to wake up to. And this is when I get to tell you about my night last night, Joe. I may just talk today, and then we'll just read through this real quick. Because what I have to say is more important than what Thomas has to say.
Yeah, I just had that thought because you were telling me all these things that we have to pull up, but I'm still like, you know what? I really want to break out this diplomacy map.
Just do it.
Of that.
Oh, now we have the Pope.
Yeah.
So now we're back at Mardi Gras. We have the Pope with the spirit of Mardi Gras. Let's see what you pull up. Is that diplomacy?
Yeah, this is the program I use to run everything in the background. But yeah, this is diplomacy.
Craig this is the game that we're all playing. There's 7 guys playing this.
Yeah, so if you look in the bottom left corner of it,
show them where Carthage is. This applies to our feast day today on the diplomacy map.
You can see TUN is Tunis or Tunisia. I suppose where Carthage would be.
Which was Carthage back in the year 201. That's when they died. So we're talking right after the apostles.
Wow, is that quick? Wow, I didn't realize it was that quick there.
Yeah, they died in I think 201, and of course Jesus died in 33, and then the last apostle died in, I can't remember, but I think the last apostle died in the 100s. Man, I should know this, but we can double check it later. But the point is that they're quickly after the apostles. So I think they knew people. They might have been in association with people who knew the apostles, but certainly people who knew the apostles. That's another great thing about, we have a writing. We have Perpetua's writing because she was a wealthy woman. And then Felicity was a slave. And so Perpetua, because she was wealthy, she knew how to write. And she was in prison waiting to be thrown to the animals in the circus under the Emperor Severus, I believe, in Carthage. And so she was able to write about her experience. And it's one of the earliest Christian documents we have. And it's also touted, praised, or lauded as one of the first writings of women, an important writing for women in the church and in the world, that we have this female writing and giving her account of what took place in the prison, and then of course leading up to the execution, and then somebody else takes over and writes about what happened to them in the actual arena. So anyway, first I want to say about last night, and I'm dead serious, I may talk for a bit because I just feel like it's appropriate for today. The Feast of Perpetua and Felicity, and it's a feast day, it's a special day. This is a big one for me. It's one of the ones I celebrate every year because of how affecting it is to me. And it's affecting to me in a good, inspiring way, and it's also affecting to me in a negative, atheistic way. So you know how I say I'm an atheist sympathizer?
Yeah.
Grew up in the house of an atheist.
Yeah.
I grew up in the house of an atheist, and he taught me real good English. What do you got up? There's the picture of Perpetua and Felicity. And so that's just a bloodbath, dude.
Yeah.
And there's something about the fact that it's not like sophisticated modern art. It's more, and it's almost not iconic. It's like somewhere in between iconography and modern art. There's not a lot of perspective, proper perspective in the thing. So I think the crudeness of it.
Yeah, it's very grounded, you know. It's extremely grounded.
Yeah, and these dudes just killing these women and of course dudes. But here's the thing that I'm talking about with the atheist thing. So atheist sympathizer, and you know I have this thing about bumpers.
Yep.
God should put bumpers on the bowling alley. Like I can understand a certain amount of suffering, even cancer, but you know, things that happen to children and stuff like this. So what made this thing even more horrific was that Perpetua had just given birth. She had a little baby boy. And then Felicity was pregnant. And so Perpetua's writing about this, and they have these women in this prison, this dungeon. She used the word dungeon because it was a dungeon. And this isn't dungeon like fun, Dungeons and Dragons, Friday night, Doritos and beer with your buddies in the dungeon. This is like for real dungeon.
And well, if anyone ever walked in that AMI dungeons, they would realize how awful it would be to be there in real life. So yeah, I get it.
And she talks about how hot it was and how the soldiers were with them. And it's just not good, dude. And they wouldn't let her have her kid, Perpetua. They finally gave her son in prison. I think her father rallied for it. And also her father was coming to the prison begging her not to do this. Just offer up a sacrifice in honor of the emperor, and we can go home and forget about all this. And she says, no, I'm a Christian. We don't offer up sacrifices to the gods. That's what the whole issue was. Just offer up a little sacrifice for the emperor. No bigs, I think it was Caesar's birthday or something. I don't know. But anyway, Perpetua says no. And then so her dad is not a Christian. So he's pulling his beard out, rending his clothes, begging her, just do this so we can go home. Think about my old age. Think about your baby. Terrible. And she's already suffering terribly. And then Felicity gives birth 2 months early. She was 8 months pregnant.
Mm.
And she considered it this joyful thing that God was allowing her to give birth early so that she wouldn't be killed with the baby. Just think of how monstrous these people are.
Mm.
Tom Holland talks a lot about people don't understand what Christianity did for the world. And then when woke people talk about how evil Israel was and the Cana and how evil these Christians are and this and that, they don't understand what Christianity, they're like using Christian principles to shit talk Christians. It's like the principles you were taught by us, you're now going to turn on us and say, but that's the way of the world, and that's what always happens because we don't live it properly. But anyway, that's a different subject. So she is monstrously treated by these Romans. She knows she's about to go be thrown to animals. And hearing Perpetua write about it in the dreams that God gave her, it's supposed to be inspiring. Like she's writing about God showing her that she's going to not survive, but go through a passion. In a dream, God shows her this.
Mm.
And the dream is a ladder going up with all these hooks and swords. And if she doesn't walk straight through the ladder, she'll fall off and it'll tear her to pieces. And anyway, hearing this stuff last night, you got to realize I'd been fasting, doing my water fast stuff. I was very hungry. And I was excited to be having these cheeseburgers.
Mm.
I had some amazing cheeseburger last night, Joe, let me just tell you, because I made it myself. I
there
made
you
it
go.
myself.
You didn't go out.
I do the smash burger thing.
Yeah.
I had it beautifully seasoned, if I do say so myself. I know how to season some meat. So I have it beautifully seasoned. It's been sitting in the fridge all day so that's drying out more so I can get that crackle on it. And then I did the thinly sliced Oklahoma style thinly sliced onion in that thing, frying, so the mylar effect is on everywhere and on those onions, just go perfect. And then I had already taken the bread buns and put butter on them and had them toasted. But here's the thing, they were toasted after also having just come out of the oven because I made the buns myself also. So the buns are fresh bread, fresh out of the oven. And when I made them, I had put olive oil and I took butter and melted the butter and used butter as part of the liquid for the bread.
Nice.
And then I also put some garlic and onion powder in the bread. So this bread was fresh out of the oven with butter and olive oil and garlic and onion powder. And also put on that mylar effect on that too. And then of course melted cheese, good American cheese on there. I'm just telling you, dude, it was ridiculous. After having fasted for 2 days.
Yeah, it's crazy that you're telling me this right now.
Why?
I'm so hungry. I want to go make a burger right now, and I can't because I have to be here and do this weird Summa thing with you instead.
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do after this Summa. This is going to be a short class, by the way. I tell you what I'm going to do after this Summa. I'm going to go have some of that burger. Usually I don't eat in the morning, but it's a feast day. So I'm going to go have some of that, even cold. Even cold, it's going to be amazing. So last night I'm having my burger. And I'm listening to the audio book, which is on YouTube. Did I send you a link? Can you put the link in the description? I think I sent you a link of the Perpetua and Felicity audiobook. This whole thing I'm telling you about, the writings of Felicity and then the people who saw her killed afterwards, is all going to be in the description. I'll just say it and make you do it. It's going to be in the description, y'all. There's a YouTube channel with the Catholic book.
I don't think you did send it to me.
Oh, come now. But anyway, so I'm having this burger, and there's a double whammy on it. Oh man, I just didn't send it to you, which makes me the guy who.
Yeah, you thought it was me for a second, didn't you? You thought it was like, no, there's no way.
I wanted it to be you.
Yeah.
Perpetua and Felicity audiobook.
I was pretty sure the only link you had sent me was that fasting thing. So I was like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're still going to want to do the fasting thing in case people, and that's something I was going to say, by the way, guys, if you decide to fast, which probably you won't, I mean, let's be real, but if you decide to water fast, you should not break it with the cheeseburger. I've been doing this for many years. Don't try this at home. I've been doing this for many years, and I know how my body is and how it reacts to things, and I know it's okay. I would never eat a cheeseburger like that to break a fast if I had been 5 days water fasting. Anyway, that's just a warning to you guys. In case you decide you want to kick it up a notch and fast. Okay, I'm sending you that link for Perpetua and Felicity's audiobook.
Great.
So I'm having this burger, Joe, and it was really great at first, and then it's like all things of this earth. It started getting to where, okay, like towards the end of it, I'm getting full.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm just ready to be done and go smoke my pipe. That's how things are in this earth. You build something up in your head. That's another good thing fasting does for you, as I've learned doing it throughout the years. You see how the human nature is more clearly. I was talking about that pond where you can look down and see the truth of things. You can see more clearly just how things are in this world. And that helps you to raise your mind and desires to the other world. And then I'm out having my pipe afterwards, which I was so looking forward to. I haven't had a pipe in 2 days or whatever it's been. So I have my pipe, and of course it's good, but it's just not amazing. It's not. I'm listening to this audiobook, and so I'm now in this kind of joyful time, but also it's minor letdown. I mean, it's a minor letdown, but it's still joyful because my belly's full and I'm having my pipe and I've got all my Hobbit luxuries. I think I was sipping rum or something. I don't know. And then I'm listening to this tale of Perpetua and Felicity and just the horrors. And then she talks about a dream she had of her brother who had died, whose face was eaten out with cancer. And then nobody would hang around him. That they said that back in the old days that this is another thing Christianity changed. When someone was so far gone in some kind of disease or mental problem, or let's say that they had some kind of birth defect or something, they just kind of would toss them. You know what I mean? Just kind of toss them out in the street.
Right.
Now we just assume you take care of your kids, even if they're mentally handicapped or something. No, we just toss them. Trash. So she's telling this story about her brother whose face was eaten off by cancer. Nobody would hang out with it, get around him. And then she sees he dies, and then she sees a dream of him, and he's in a place of suffering, but through her prayers, he's brought up to light. And then I know what's about to happen. I'm going to listen to it later today, but I couldn't listen to any more last night. But today I'll listen to the actual struggle in the theater, in the amphitheater, while everyone's watching. Dying is kind of a private activity.
Yeah.
It's like taking a dump, really. And have you ever watched someone die, Joe?
Yes.
I've watched 2 people, I mean, in real life in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you had seen stuff on video and that was a thing and all that. I'm just saying, yeah, it's a whole different ballgame in front of you, and you realize it's a private affair. And these girls are thrown out into a coliseum with a crowd being like, "Woo, let's go!" And anyway, the one Felicity had already given birth, but she still had milk in her breast. And at one point, a cow gores her. At one point, they had a cow that still had its horns, and the cow went up and gored her, and it hit her breast, and milk started leaking down her body. And that made the crowd, even the hard heart of this Carthaginian, Romanesque crowd of pre-Christian, pre-Christian taking over everything world. And even that even their hearts were softened at that. And so their hearts being softened, Joe, they mercifully went over and did what's in this picture. It's like, oh, poor girl. Her breast is leaching out milk. So let's just be merciful and go like start slitting all their throats. And now you have this pile of bodies out in the middle of the amphitheater. Okay, well, that show ended early. On to the next show. Yeah. And so I was in a state last night of both spiritual elevation and joy, and also atheistic. Really, Lord? Really? That's how you run your planet, you know?
Right.
That's the big game plan, to have stuff like that happen, and we're supposed to be super excited about it. Oh, they triumphed. They triumphed in the theater of battle. Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow. It's
Indeed.
an easy pill to swallow for Christians who are living in fantasy land. Some Christians who may watch this may go, yeah, but if the grace of the Lord, and remember, little Therese loved to suffer, and blah. I've heard people say stuff like this in conversations like this. Fantasy land. The scripture says that we're supposed to be patient with them, patient with those whose faith is new, weak, and don't assimilate things. See, the people who are actually ascended, they would not say stuff like that. Like the people who would actually rejoice, because it says in her testimony that when they took them, when they pronounced death on them and then sent them into the dungeon, they went into the dungeon rejoicing. It is true that God can give you grace for that, and I 100% believe it. If you're at that place, then great. But if you're at that place, I think that you would not have the tone of voice that's quite so superior as, oh, well, if you just believe God and have faith, then you would understand that that kind of thing is what annoys me. But Perpetua and Felicity, we celebrate this great day. These powerful women, these strong, astonishingly strong women. When she was giving birth in this prison, one of the guards was like heckling her.
Wow.
He was like, oh, this is painful. Look at your pain that you're in. How are you going to handle the animals that you're going to have to face if you're having screaming at this? That'd be fun, huh, Joe? You've been with your wife in nice hospitals where they're being nice to you, and still how difficult it is.
Yeah, nice is yeah. They were being nice. Let's say nice. Yeah.
Compared to a dungeon.
Yeah.
And then to be in a dungeon giving birth and having people heckle you. The things that the Lord allows on this planet, pretty amazing, guys. So we will meditate upon the eternity of God today, I think is what we're doing. Yeah, the eternity of God. And that God has gifts in store for us that are beyond what we do get intimations of it. Perpetua talked about this experience she was having in prayer in the dungeon, where after this trial, I think she had a dream, and after this horrible trial she went through in the dream, she was given a branch, and then an aroma came up within her, and everyone, all the Christians who were suffering in this dream that she was having, all the Christians that were suffering smelt the aroma, and it satisfied all of their hunger. I have had, I can say that I've had prayer experiences where the best way I can explain it is like incense. It's like incense comes up from within you, and it's so beautiful that your whole consciousness just wants to dive into it. You would be willing to die at that moment. Easy. There's nothing that can compare to. And I would get that prayer experience at like volume 2. If it was at volume 10, I probably would die. Your consciousness would just be drawn to this aroma, is the best way to explain it, more than anything. So I completely agree and understand how you could be suffering like this. At one point, Perpetua said that the prison, the dungeon, became a kind of paradise for her, and she would not want to be anywhere else. I 100% agree with that. So when I say that the atheist thing in me, I'm saying it's a purification process, that God's showing me that deep within me, there's still this atheistic, rebellious darkness that needs to be purified. And it's a deep thing in the human soul to rebel against God and against this whole reality of seeking for life outside of this life. Our flesh doesn't like that. It finds it annoying. It's like, it's the beaver thing. It's like, why do you have to be upset at us that we don't want to graduate to this next life? Just let us live our beaver life. It's pretty good. Why do we have to go through this horrific stuff to elevate to a higher form of life, the divine life? Don't want to. just want to, why don't you give us a beaver galleon with a perpetually, you're God, you can do this, a perpetually remorphing mast. Like every time you wake up in the morning, the mast is back up and you can chew it again, But
Yeah,
he's got this. Yeah, but he's got this other kind of life prepared for us. It's going to be good. But you get intimations of it here. I know it's going to be good. I know it's right. And someone will say, well, if you know it, then why are you saying this atheist sympathizer stuff? Because I'm honest about a purification that needs to happen deep in my soul that I can see from being here in the Hermitage and still and quiet. And maybe if you wouldn't spend your whole day and life on Netflix and doom scrolling, you would be able to still and see that too, and you wouldn't say such goofy Christian things to people. Perhaps that's an answer. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to dog on them as much as you are. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
but
I'm going to dog on them completely. I'm trying to bring my friends into the church, and my friends all know it's true. That's why they don't go to church. Goofy Christians. Okay, let's go to question 10 of the Summa. I've talked about my cheeseburger in paradise, and by the way, this morning, geese are returning to the land as spring enters in, and I hear them so beautifully. It was a new thing. It was like, it was like that scene in Narnia where the snow starts melting and you know that things are changing. I was like, I hear the geese. And then I looked out at them because they were coming over the house. And then I saw them appear like that first scene of Star Wars. I saw them appear over the top into the screen, into the shot. And then they swoop down into the pond. And of course, the pond is still frozen.
Yeah.
So they hit the pond and just like do a goose slide across the pond. All right, folks, let's get into the eternity of God. Question 10, the eternity of God. Here we go. We must now consider the eternity of God, concerning which arise 6 points of inquiry. What is eternity? That's a rough one. Whether God is eternal. Whether to be eternal belongs to God alone, whether eternity differs from time, the difference of avieternity and of time. I looked that up yesterday, Joe. Avieternity. It's this term. It's this term that I'm trying to remember which theologian coined, but it's the idea of I'm not going to say limbo, but it's like a place after death where there's still movement in space-time, but it goes on forever. So the idea is that the question is, are we going to live in an avieternity, in a place where perhaps in some way we're experiencing the eternity of God, but we're also experiencing bodily movement so that it's still kind of space-time-ish. And the term is avieternity. The difference of avieternity and of time. And 6, whether there is only one avieternity, as there is one time and one eternity. Now, by the way, today's a big day, Joe. We have a 6th objection today. First time.
Wait, is that true? I don't know if it's just the first time.
I don't think we've had a 6th objection.
I thought we did. Hold on.
1, 2, 3. Wait. 1, 2. Yeah, this is the first time we've had it. Because remember I said if we ever have a 6th objection, we need to call it Zeno. Call him Zeno.
Hold on a second.
But we could also call him Plutarch. I'm kind of thrown up. The earbuds just went off. I'm going to do the whole switcheroo thing. I'm kind of in a toss-up.
Whatever you were just saying, I didn't hear it because my headphones are out of my thing.
Can you hear me now?
Prove you wrong, straight up.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I'm kind of on a toss-up between calling the 6th guy Zeno or Plutarch. Plutarch was the one that talked about the ship of Theseus.
Right.
That's kind of what I was trying to get at, the ship thing. So Plutarch seems more interesting or more appropriate, but has his paradoxes, and he was also a Stoic. So and also Zeno is kind of a cool name. So I don't know if we should call him Plutarch or Zeno. Do you have any thoughts on the matter?
I like Plutarch for whatever reason. I couldn't tell you
for
exactly
the weirdness
why.
of it. Let's stick with Plutarch. Okay,
it's a little more weird.
Here we go, guys. We're going to be hearing from Plutarch today, and we'll find out what kind of personality he has as this show continues. See, guys, you have to understand we're almost kind of in a D&D adventure here on this Beaver Galleon. As you might have noticed, we started off just giving names to the people: Larry, Ralph, Shimon, but slowly they're gaining personalities. Like we know that Billy Bob and Reuven like to go smoke reefer, and Billy Bob's a fisherman. We're learning more and more about these guys as we go along, like a D&D adventure. That's so right. Stick with us, folks. The point is that
Question 8, Article 4 has 6 objections. I knew it.
Well, what did we call the guy?
I knew it in my knower.
Well, we're going to change his name to Plutarch. I probably did call him Zeno.
I don't know. I'm curious. I could find out.
He was faking everybody out. Is the problem?
Yeah,
it was Plutarch, but he told everybody his name was Zeno just because it sounds cool. You know,
we picked him up adrift, and you know he was thinking of like a name change thing, but he couldn't really keep it going.
He wanted to start anew. That's why he was there. He was like almost like a Jonah type character. Right. He was fleeing from obligations. And so he was like, I just want to start anew, man. I'm tired of being Plutarch. I'm tired of the demands of Plutarch. I just want to be Zeno, the Stoic who doesn't care, you know. All right, here we go. Article, what? You were going to say something?
No, I was just going to look at the, I'm going to go look at what we called him. But you keep going.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to zip through this, guys, because I don't even want to look at the clock, but I want this to be an early class. Article 1, whether this is a good definition of eternity. And it should be a colon, it seems to me, but whether this is a good definition of eternity, colon. The simultaneously whole and perfect possession of interminable life. That's the question he's asking. Very interesting. Thomas has a definition for eternity, and he's going to say, all right, guys, poke holes in it. Let's see if this is a good definition. Here's the definition again. The simultaneously whole and perfect possession of interminable life. Objection 1, it's Larry. It seems that the definition of eternity given by Boethius is not a good one. Eternity is simultaneously whole and perfect possession of interminable life. For the word interminable is a negative one, but negation only belongs to what is defective. And this does not belong to eternity. Therefore, in the definition of eternity, the word interminable ought not to be found. Let's keep going. Ralph, further, eternity signifies a certain kind of duration. but duration regards existence rather than life. Therefore, the word life ought not to come into the definition of eternity, but rather the word existence. He's saying like rocks don't have life, they exist. It's different. Objection 3 from Shimon. Further, a whole is what has parts, but this is alien to eternity, which is simple. This is awesome. He's bringing in two concepts and principles that we've already gone through. One is whole has parts. We talked about that in magnitude and multitude and different things. How mathematics, how you can logically make a distinction of separation and difference, but that's only in your head. It's a logical distinction. Did you find it, Joe?
Billy Bob. It's Billy Bob.
That's objection 5. Billy Bob is 5. Am I wrong about this?
You called him Billy Bob. I think you might have inserted the name in between. Between.
It's a
Ralph
new day. It's a new day now. We've got everything straightened out, just like on Mardi Gras, where we got everything straightened out. Okay,
that's how. Who was it? Was it who is the guy who was smoking reefer? Was it Shimon or no? It was Reuben.
It was Reuben and Billy Bob.
Yeah. So what it was Plutarch was the one he got it there. He had some with him when he was picked up adrift.
Plutarch brought the weed.
Yeah.
Good one, dude.
That will make sense to anybody unless they've been listening. But.
Now we know that Plutarch brought the weed. I know. If you haven't, by the way, guys, if you're tuning in for the first time, watch the show each day live if you can, or the day of it. And if you want to get caught up on everything in this Beaver Galleon and what's happening in this Summa teaching, go back and start watching from the beginning. But still, if you miss, watch the day of the day. You got to stick with us on this Beaver Galleon. We can't have people floating back in the waves of the past. We need people with us here on the Beaver Galleon. And then if you do that day, then go back and watch some. Further, a whole is what has parts, but this is an alien to eternity, which is simple. We have already had the concept of the divine simplicity. So we're building on everything like a staircase. Therefore, it is improperly said to be whole. Objection number 4, which is Reuven. Many days cannot occur together, nor can many times exist all at once. But in eternity, days and times are in the plural. For it is said, his going forth is from the beginning, from the days of eternity. Micah 5. And also it is said, according to the revelation of the mystery hidden from eternity. Therefore, eternity is not omni-simultaneous. Now, I'm going to tell you, Reuven, the beginning is not such a great point. But he's using terminology here that you still got to respect them, even though they're like stoners.
Yeah.
Sort of like Joe Rogan. I think Joe Rogan hits a little weed, but the dude's smart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Further, objection 5, which is Billy Bob. Further, the whole and the perfect are the same thing. Supposing, therefore, that it is whole, it is superfluous to describe eternity as perfect. He's just saying his only thing is it's superfluous. He's not trying to be contrary. He's just saying, we don't need the word whole. And then 6, Plutarch, our new shipmate, pulled up on the ship like in that Jack London story. I can't remember what it's called. Have you ever read that Jack London story where they pull that guy up? It's a bunch of like fishermen. I think it's a bunch of fishermen, like whalers or something. Gruff dudes, tough. And they pull this young, like, dandy. He's like a dandy from the city, Like, picture somebody who might come into the cigar lounge, who perhaps always dresses nice. And maybe they don't have a lot of working. Like, we know Gage takes care of business out in the hard work. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But just picture someone. I'm not saying anyone we know. I'm just picturing someone in that thing, but they actually don't do hard work and they're all soft and everything. That's what's in that Jack London story, that they pull this guy up on the ship. I can just picture an author being like, what would happen if you had this kind of guy, this kind of big city dandy who's all popular with everyone because of how effete and sweet and he is, what would happen if he was just in a group of rugged fishermen? And so London was like, how could I do that? And then he thinks up the idea to have a shipwreck, and then the guy ends up on this fishing boat, and they all open his shirt up, and all the guys are looking at his chest, and they're like, is this like a woman or what is this? They're like, what is this thing that just came up on there? And I think it says that they touch his chest and he feels their calloused hands. Their hands are hard and callousy. Both parties, him is just shocked at this weird humanity above him as he lays on the deck of the ship, and they're looking down at him at this weird humanity. It's a Jack London story. It's really good. Can't remember what it's called. Anyway, Plutarch, objection 6. Further, duration does not imply possession, but eternity is a kind of duration. Therefore, eternity is not possession. I answer that as we attain to the knowledge of simple things by way of compound things, so must we reach to the knowledge of eternity by means of time, which is nothing but the numbering of movement by before and after. That's kind of a big statement, and it's beautiful. He's saying the Aristotle thing. We learn eternal things by means of time, by means of space-time. God has put us in this game with semiotic representations of himself so that we might slowly, by degrees, as it says in the book of Exodus, the very time we're going through right now, God brought Israel through the desert by stages. We are going through the desert of this life with succession of time, space-time, with semiotic representations, that we might make a choice to learn more and more about that which is commonly referred to as God. 4, since succession occurs in every moment, and one part comes after another, the fact that we reckon before and after in movement makes us apprehend time, which is nothing else but the measure of before and after in movement. Now, in a thing bereft of movement, which is always the same, there is no before or after. As therefore the idea of time consists in the numbering of before and after in movement, so likewise, in the apprehension of the uniformity of what is outside of movement consists the idea of eternity. Further, those things are said to be measured by time which have a beginning and an end in time, because in everything which is moved, there is a beginning and there is an end. But as whatever is wholly immutable can have no succession, so it has no beginning and no end. This is the nature of God. He is not in potency. That's why Aristotle and Thomas say he has to be pure act, because to be in potency means that something has not yet happened. And for something to not yet happen and then to happen in a movement through time, you have to have something that moved it. The strings on this guitar don't play Richland Women Blues by themselves. Nothing in science springs into existence out of nowhere. That's the nature of space-time. That's the nature of matter. That's the nature of nature. So there must be something. For anything to exist, there must be something that is not in potency at all, but it is in pure act, and that we commonly refer to as God. Thus, eternity is known from 2 sources. First, because what is eternal is interminable, that is, has no beginning nor end, that is, no term either way. Term like a term that you serve in prison or something. Second, because eternity has no succession, being simultaneously whole. All right, let's hear the replies. Reply to Larry. Simple things are usually defined by way of negation. As a point is that which has no parts. A point like boop on a geometry, okay? That's why the trivium and the quadrivium are so important. As I studied yesterday, my trivium and quadrivium, I learned more about geometry and points and movement and how that also begins to apply to the heavenlies in astronomy, and it's astonishing and beautiful. But all these guys would have studied the trivium and quadrivium, so they already have all this in their head. And so a point is boop, a dot, boop, a dot on the chalkboard. That's a point. And that is simple. Divine simplicity doesn't have parts. Simple things are usually defined by way of negation. That's why we talk about cataphatic and apophatic theology. Apophatic being that which is not. That's why Mother Natalia's podcast is called What God Is Not. Since God is simple, we can only speak of him in terms of what it's not. And he's using this metaphor also in geometry, saying simple things are usually defined by a negation, such as when we say a point is that which has no parts. We don't say what a point is because it's too simple. It's hard to get under that and start defining what it is. So it's easier to just say what a point is not. A point is that which has no parts. Yet this is not to be taken as if the negation belonged to their essence, but because of our intellect, which first apprehends compound things, cannot attain to the knowledge of simple things except through removing the opposite. He's showing us in space-time, the way we come to know simple things is by removing, we work backwards to what is simple, by removing the things that it is not. That's why before I'd said that God is similar to the theology, the science of God, is similar to the science of a black hole or gravity. We don't know exactly what it is. We just talk about what it's not. And what it does, it starts sucking light into it and the light can't escape. Well, where did it go? What happens then? We don't know. But we can look at the things and travel back to it, and then we start trying to figure out what it is. And that's what we're doing in divine theology, which employs all sciences, the natural sciences, astronomy, natural physics. Everything is used in this great science, which is trying to come to understand and intuit what this big question mark is that started all this thing. That's theology. All right, so that's that. Reply to objection 2. What is truly eternal is not only being, but also living. And life extends to operation, which is not true of being. Now, the protraction of duration seems to belong to operation rather than to being. Hence, time is the numbering of movement. What was objection 2? Further, eternity signifies a certain kind of duration, but duration regards existence rather than life. He's just saying, yeah, existence is part of life. Now the protraction of duration seems to belong to the operation of rather than to being. Hence, time is the numbering of movement. He's saying it's a logical distinction again. Time is the numbering of movement. What is truly eternal is not only being, but also living. Life extends to operation. Okay, now I got it. Life is the first cause. God is the efficient cause. And as we said in previous questions, his life and his power are what is present in everything he's created. Just like I, the efficient cause, am present in a song that I am playing. I am present in that song. Okay, reply to objection 3. Eternity is called whole, not because it has parts, but because it is wanting in nothing. He's saying the word whole is not used as a material pie and parts, but it's used in the way we talk about a person who's not sick has been made whole. A doctor cures him and he's been made whole. He's not wanting in anything. Reply to objection 4. As God, although incorporeal, is named in Scripture metaphorically as by corporeal names, so eternity, though simultaneously whole, is called by names implying time and succession. He's again using the metaphor thing. That was objection 4. And remember, he picked on the word, what word did he pick on? Days and times. But I would also like to say regarding the Micah scripture, but his going forth is from the days of eternity. Just because it says days doesn't mean that it can't be all at once, because God is seeing all days at once. Just contemplate that. Reply to objection 5. I think that's where we are, right? We're at Billy Bob, Joe?
Yep.
2 things are to be considered in time. Time itself, which is successive, and the now of time, which is imperfect. Hence, the expression simultaneously whole is used to remove the idea of time, and the word perfect is used to exclude the now of time. These are exclusions. Simultaneously whole is purposefully used. The term is purposefully used because we don't want you to think that there is succession of time. So we say simultaneously. And we don't want you to think that we're talking about a now like in space-time. In space-time, now is imperfect because now is not the fulfillment of everything. It's the exact opposite. Now is moving towards a goal. Just like we talked about the fire, as you're putting the wood together to start the fire, and that's not going to work. There's not going to be enough airflow, and finally you get the wood cut just right, and everybody, all the guys standing around, go, "That's perfect," because it's moving towards a goal. Well, if you were to stop that whole process, like 1/3 of the way in, when he's just getting the wood laying into the thing, into the fire pit, if you were to stop that, that would be the present moment. And that present moment is not perfect in regards to the building of the fire. That's what you have to start to see. All this stuff about, well, it's the present moment. It's the present moment. It is the present moment, but you have to realize you're in the present moment directed towards a goal. You have to realize that all of life is teleological. And if you want to say, no, it's not, then you just have to say that as a belief that flies in the face of every kind of way we act in reality. We always act like we're teleological. After we're doing this for a reason, so that I can put cheese on my hamburgers and Joe can feed his kids. We're also doing this for another reason, to hand over catechesis to the people. We're also doing this for another reason, to have camaraderie. We're also doing this, everything you do is for some future telos. We're all teleologically drawn. The present moment is serving the future. But anyway, he used the word now just to show that he's not talking about space-time present moment, but he's talking about the eternal now, which God sees all things in front of him, all days, all eternity is before him. Reply to objection 6. He's going to look over at Plutarch, the new guy on the ship, and say, whatever is possessed is held firmly and quietly. Therefore, do not designate the immutability and permanence of eternity. Therefore, to designate the immutability and permanence of eternity, we use the word possession. Now that is so beautiful. Think of the power of Thomas and the meekness, You know, the word meek is like meeking a horse. When you get a horse to where it can work in battle or it can go where you want it to go, the horse is still powerful. The horse doesn't lose its power and its ability to be powerful. That's not what meekness is, where you take someone's balls away. Meekness is that they can control it and direct it in a intelligent and beautiful way. And you see the meekness of St. Thomas here with the word quietly. And think of him as a galleon captain of the galleon. Whatever is possessed is held firmly and quietly. Therefore, it's like Leia said to Vader, the harder you clench your fist, the more star systems will fall through your fingers. Whatever is possessed, truly possessed, is held firmly and quietly. Therefore, the person who knows he's a badass doesn't have to clench on to something. He knows nobody's going to go take it out of his hand. The lion sitting there with the bone in his mouth doesn't need to clench onto it hard. He can clench onto it firmly, but quietly, because he knows he's the big dog. He's the king of the jungle. He is not going to be messed with. Whatever is possessed is held firmly and quietly. Therefore, to designate the immutability and permanence of eternity, we use the word possession. God is possessing us in all things firmly and quietly. We are at the end of the page, Joe.
Man, oh man.
5 minutes over.
Well, we were 5 minutes late, so you're about perfect, actually.
Wow, how does he do it?
Yeah.
I didn't even look at the clock.
Yeah,
Ladies and gentlemen, everything is straw. Do you have anything to say, Joe?
No.
Happy Feast of Perpetua and Felicity, everyone. Peace be with you. Bye.